In this video, we're going to continue on with our configuring of NPS and RAS, and we're going to configure Radius on our environment to allow Active Directory to begin authenticating our dial-in users. Let's check it out. So here we are. Server DC1 has just finished installing NPAS, and so now we want to go to Server Manager, Tools, and Network Policy Server. Here on the Network Policy Server, let's expand this out. We want to click Configure VPN or Dial-Up. In this case, we want to specify a VPN connection, and we can go ahead and keep the default name there. Go ahead and click Next. And the Radius client we will add, and what we want to do is we want to include the IP address of server DM1, which should be 10.99.0.20. We can go ahead and give it a friendly name as well so we can find it easily later. If necessary, we can click verify and resolve, and that will confirm, yes, in fact, it resolved to something. At this point, we will go ahead and click, in the shared secret, let's add a password 01 as a shared secret. It should be a more secure password than that in a production environment. In theory, this is the only thing that is securing your communications to your VPN server. Say OK, and next. In the authentication methods, we want to ensure that Microsoft encrypted authentication is enabled. We can enable these other options. However, this is the ideal one for right now. MSChap v2. Next. In this page, we can specify which users can act into our VPN server. We want everybody in our domain currently to be able to access the domain, the VPN server. So we will not add any groups, and then we will click next. Here we can specify some IP filters to allow certain IPs in and certain IPs out. We are not going to configure any filters, so we will click next. Here we can change what encryption options are available. In a production environment, you probably only want to allow the strongest. However, for this test lab, we will allow all of them. Next. Here we can specify a realm. This might be something like az800.corp. However, in our environment, we are going to leave that blank. So I'll delete that and click next. And finally, we see our overall configuration and finish. Now that we've configured our domain controller as an NPS server, or more specifically a Radius server, now we can go over to DM1 where our VPN server is and configure it to use our Radius for authentication. So back into routing and remote access on server DM1, I'm going to right click on server DM1 and choose properties. Not entirely sure why, but my properties was not opening up. What I ended up doing was just closing the routing and remote access tool, opening it back up, right click server DM1 and properties. Now that I have the properties for DM1 selected, I want to choose security, and under authentication provider, I want to change this to Radius and click configure. On configure, I want to add, in order to add a Radius server, and I want to give the name of the Radius server here. The lab guide tells us to go ahead and type in server DC1. However, oftentimes this is where an IP address would be preferred. Want to specify a shared secret, so click change, password 01 and password 01. Okay. Oh, didn't match. Try that again. Okay, and okay. There we go. So that was for authentication. We now want to repeat those steps for our accounting. So we'll choose accounting, configure, add server DC1, change password 01 and password 01. Okay, okay, and okay. And then finally, after it has verified that it can communicate with DC1, okay. And then last but not least, once we have set the properties, we need to restart the RAS service. So when this finally closes out, we will right-click DM1 and choose All Tasks Restart. There we are. Right-click, All Tasks, and Restart. At this point, any clients who attempt to VPN into server DM1 should be authenticated against the domain controller, and that is the next activity.